Hello, and welcome to the 2022 Holistic Pain Relief Summit. My name is Trish Rossiter, and I'm your host. This summit is for people who live with pain and who want to get back to living a more fuller life without the need for pain medication and for invasive therapies. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to pop into our Facebook group. Share your takeaways of the day, meet some community, meet our expert speakers. And today I'm delighted to introduce Kathy Welter. Kathy is in British Columbia, the beautiful province of British Columbia. And Kathy is a passionate student of neuroscience. And with her, with the drive to understand our human potential and our unlimited capabilities that each of us have within us, Kathy has spent numerous years teaching meditation, doing relaxation groups and meditation groups with cancer patients in BC. Her group over the last 5 years has seen 23,000 people. And Kathy is building a program now so she can train practitioners to introduce meditation into their programs as well. So we can just spread the word about how meditation is really at the foundation of our healing and becoming whoever we want to be, essentially. Welcome, Kathy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, Trish. I think it's an exciting time for this new information to be coming out into the public terrain. And I'm going to share this is partly why a lot of the neuroscientists are bringing their information forward to the public domain rather than have it go through the universities, be vetted, take it through its normal channels. What they're really doing is saying this information is critical for our times. Let's get it out there to the public now. So you can look at a lot of neuroscience on YouTube. You can see a lot of different programs out there, and it really helps us. They put it into a language that we, the consumer, can actually understand it. Oh, that makes so much sense. Oh, I see why I do that. I can change that. Oh, I am changing. I've been changing my whole life. So this is one of the areas that I've wanted to share in this group, probably more than anything, is the process of how do I, as an individual, begin to work with the terrain of my own life. And I think back to Carolyn Miss from years ago, and she shared that she stopped doing lectures because people were following her like she was a guru instead of working on the inside, working on
Mhm.
their own stuff. And really, if you think about it, that's what this healing is all about. So as we start to become more conscious, more aware of our beliefs and our values and the things that we have taken on uh, from others, family members in our lives, and we've ended up making them our story. And as we start to take that on and go, hey, wait a minute, and we challenge those beliefs. Is this really true? Is this really my truth? And if it's not, where did it come from? So we have these biases that come up. And a bias is part of what entrains the brain. This is cognitive bias. Where do we get this from? We get this from early childhood. We begin to pay attention to those areas in our lives that are instructing us. What's important to my mom? What's important to my dad? Um, I think of family members. I'll be talking to the mother, and the mother's saying, "Oh, my son's experiencing depression, this severe depression. He gets into this depressed state, and I don't know. I just leave him alone. I don't know what to do with him." So, what is that depressed state really buying that son? Privacy from his mother. what's
Mhm.
what's what's the purpose of it? How is it getting him either something he needs or something he's not willing to ask for? How is it getting him the capability of being able to disengage or step out of some of his other roles? what is that all about? And then the mother's story is, well, there's depression in the family. There's depression in his grandmother. There's depression in his father's family. So now you look at it and you go, wait a second, you know, we're just sending down the line the same story and we're repeating it into the next generation. Now the next generation is going to have to deal with it.
Mhm.
So, how can we change this when our doctors and our therapists and everything tell us that these things are normal and here's the medication that you're going to need to be able to survive this debilitating situation, whatever it is? We have the capacity within our own brain to be able to change this. And our brains are, in fact, always changing. And we do call this neuroplasticity. It's the study of the brain that changes itself. And if I could say to the listeners, you might think, how do I change my brain? That's complicated. Well, let's think about it. You used to believe in Santa Claus. If you're in that kind of following, if your family followed it, then you probably believed it too. But at some point, you stopped believing it. And eventually that kind of fell away. And now the Christmas season comes up, and yeah, there's Santa Clauses all over the place, but it doesn't pay any attention. You made a brain change right there. How are we facilitating these brain changes is really how we deal with our emotions, our cognitive responses to life. And let's also keep in mind there was a long period of time in our quite recent history, if you think of it that way, where negative feelings, oh, you just shouldn't have them. You don't want to feel negative. You don't want to feel upset. You don't want to feel challenged in any way. So just get rid of those feelings. If you can't get rid of those feelings, see a therapist, get a medication, deal with it. And then there was a really long period of time too, where seeing a therapist meant you were really not okay. And so it became a very shame-based thing. So we're kind of coming out of the closet with a lot of this stuff, and humanity is getting an opportunity to say, hey, I don't feel okay about this. I don't feel right about that. I don't feel consciously that I'm okay. I need some help. And so how do we get that help now, today? We can continue to search outside of ourselves, you see. Over here, read a book, go to a workshop, do a retreat, look outside of ourselves. And I believe with the deepest part of me, and this is a belief of mine, it's come to me over the past maybe 15, 20 years, but I really do believe the result of us taking personal responsibility for our well-being, our emotions, our mindset, what we call truth in our own beliefs, our views and opinions, we start to harness that and really challenge it and take responsibility for it. Well, that's really where we're going to get to a place of, I would say, personal consciousness about my state of being.
Which ultimately will impact everything, including physical pain.
Yes, exactly. Our belief about physical pain. I mean, part of us believes that if we have a painful situation going on, then we shouldn't have it. That shouldn't be happening to us. We should be in a place where we don't feel pain. But our body's sensory systems teach us about what pain really is. Pain is a signal that something's not working right, and we have to go and find out what that is. If the pain becomes acute enough, that's when we'll actually take action on it. If we don't take action on it, well, a lot of times the pain seems that it's going to get worse or it's going to, take over my life. But then also things change, don't they? So this is where my work has been most significantly in looking at pain, people's pain. What kind of pain is there? There's acute pain, there's chronic pain, that's that recurring pain, and there's also phantom pain. What is phantom pain? It's a pain that moves around the body and we're not really even sure what it's trying to say to us. Or it is actually where a limb has been removed from the body and there's pain as if the hand is still there and still in pain. What is that all about? Why is that happening? When we look at phantom pain occurs as a result of our body's natural ability to know how much space we take up. Like, you can walk in the dark and not stub your toe. You can be mindless in the dark and stub your toe multiple times. You can be walking along in full daylight and crack your toe on something because you're kind of mindless about that. So what happens in phantom pain is the unconscious has nerve endings running to all our extremities. So when this hand is cut off or a leg is amputated or toes are amputated, the nerve endings are still there looking for the signal. How do I fill this out? Now, the interesting thing in neuroscience and in robotics, and this is really advancing now, is they are working with individuals attaching a robotic arm, okay? And it's so brilliantly done now that they attach the robotic arm and they start working with the signals for the person to be able to move it consciously. Remember, I'll just put this piece in here. We were talking earlier. The conscious mind can manage about 50 bits of information per second. The unconscious, 11 billion. 11. Look at the difference. Who's
Incredible.
really running the show here?
Right.
It's the unconscious. So they're having the person with the robotic arm remember these 50 bits of information of how I move my fingers. And so he's doing all this. Then they begin to connect it to the nerves. They're doing graphs with the nerves. And now this robotic arm, they're having him in his brain remember and remember into the brain, reteach the brain to remember what these fingers could do, what this hand was able to do. And he's doing it with his own mind. And the neuroscientists that are working with him, it's 11 or $12 million in this thing. And he's like so grateful because he's got chosen to be the guy who would receive this.
Amazing.
It's really their study, you know. But out of this is coming the understanding that the brain has the capacity to remember all of itself. Now, what if the child is born with natural sort of amputees or things like this? It's missing pieces in the physical parts of the body. Then the body doesn't have a natural memory of that. The nerve endings aren't looking for that. So the phantom pain comes from the brain seeking to find itself in the field. And if we think about that field that we occupy, we know now we're 93% space between all these cells that make up our physiology. And the cells are all communicating. We take away the flesh, we take away all the bits and pieces in the body, you know, and we find there is this massive energy field. Now, the energy fields have been we've been consciously aware of it when we look back to, ancient China into, 5000 BC China. I think if we could actually understand more of the hieroglyphics in Egypt, we would also understand more of what they knew about the energy fields. And I'll just say here, both my husband and I have spent some time in Egypt, and we were in the big pyramids there. And when you go into the big pyramids, even though they tell you there it's some sort of sarcophagus and death place, it's not that at all. The big sarcophagus inside the Great Pyramid, and it's open, the lid's off of it, but on the side, the lid, there's a sort of a hole through the basalt. And so when the lid is on, you can still get air in and out. Not a hieroglyph to be seen in that whole place. So in the king's chamber, we went into it, we laid out. There was nobody in the chamber with us, so we laid down in the sarcophagus and did this, So some of the pieces are that this was where they would take the incoming priests and they would lay in the sarcophagus. They would put them in for 4 days. and they would be in there, and they would have grains of wheat in the palm of their hand, and it would be their task to sprout the wheat kernels over the period of the time. And on top of that, they would put situations out around the community that they were part of, and they would ask the person who's journeying inside this black sarcophagus to go out inside their mind into the community, and there would be certain things that they would see and report back on. The end of the 4 days, they come back, sure enough, the seeds had sprouted, and they would be able to recount the different things that they saw around the community. And they would give
Wow.
them certain things to pick up. So this is
Right.
like a telepathy.
Mhm.
It's a mindful telepathy, but it's a deep trance induction, is it essentially where they're in. Why these grains of sand would, or gems of seeds of wheat would sprout is because the hands have moisture and
Mhm.
heat, and the seeds need darkness. So you could
Mhm.
hold the seed in your hand in darkness for 4 days, and it would germinate. It would sprout.
Wow.
So yeah, so this is kind of a normal thing. And
Right.
now we understand too the use of the cognitive brain and the way that they were doing it. It was more about working with
Mhm.
the energy fields, as opposed to working with um, physically doing things. There are some things we do not understand. In Peru, how did they cut those stones? How
Mhm.
did they bring these stones together? We don't know how they did it. We are hard pressed to recreate the pyramids right now. We can't do it with our technology we have today. So
Mhm.
things were going on then, and the breath work and the meditation work, we can read it now from ancient China. It was in 500 BC, and it's on the Zhou dynasty, Zhou dynasty, and it was carved out on these big tombs, these big drums, and all the hieroglyphs they were capable of reading them, and it really talked about the breath. When you breathe deep into the belly, it calms and allows the body to settle. And then
Mhm.
there's a warning that goes with that transcription, and the warning is that the person who follows this mechanism lives a long life. A person who doesn't follow this mechanism of breathing deep into the body and allowing the calmness to settle will die. Interesting, eh? 500 BC.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
we look at it and we think, and I looked at it and I went, oh, they're just teaching the mechanism of deep breath. That's all it
Yes.
is. Well, what
Yeah.
is the deep breath really doing
Right.
for the body?
Right.
What it does is it takes us into a meditative state. The minute it drops us into the meditative state or the parasympathetic state, the, um, the renewal system of the body, our brain, under the MRIs, lights up. We see all the colors. Now, if
Mhm.
we're in focus like you and I are right now, and we're doing this lecture, only the prefrontal cortex is operating. This is where all the action is. We're learning something new. Once we relax, the whole brain lights up. So as the whole brain lights up, causes the whole body to go into this relaxed state, the heart rate slows down, blood pressure begins to drop, the blood gases and the distribution of oxygen becomes much more efficient. Our digestive system operates. Everything in the body starts to improve. So does our immune response. So our immune system becomes much more efficient as well. So when we look at this, we talked about the phantom pain and how we reconnect with that. It's always with us. What about acute pain when we have an injury or an accident or something like this? And I know I shared the story of Corey with you, the little boy that had 60% of his body was burned from an accident that he was involved in. And it was, he was flown down to Sick Children's here, and I worked with him sending in tapes at that time. It's so long ago, and I would just record the tapes and send them in. And basically, he would listen to them. And what I did first with him was invite him inside his mind to go into this room where there was thousands of light switches, and they were all red. Some were blue. And I invited him, I stood at the entrance of the doorway with him, and I invited him to go into the room and turn all the switches to blue. And he did. And the ones that were high up, I said, here's a ladder, climb up, turn them off, turn them all to blue. And so he would turn them to blue. And in that meditation that I did with him, I also gave him permission that anytime it was sore or painful, he could just go back into the room and adjust those switches anytime he wanted. And the blue was cool, and the blue was soft, and the blue let him breathe. And so I gave all kinds of attributes to this that his own unconscious could receive. So while he's in that state, unbeknownst to me at the time, I did not know this, it's so long ago, but his own body, his own brain, in that relaxed state after a traumatic event, was literally flowing into allowing the dopamine, the tryptophan, the serotonin, the endorphins, all to begin to release. This is the chemicals of what we call the feel-good cocktail, flooding through the body and improving his immune response. And that's what happened. So this little fellow who was supposed to not make it, he was supposed to not make it the first week he was in the hospital, and he ended up going home in 3 months. Here he
Amazing.
is, a 6-year-old boy who doesn't know not to believe it. He didn't know. And because he didn't know, he just did it. Now, us as humans who might get something similar or something hopefully not as traumatic as this was, if we were into something like that, we had this acute pain, we might not believe it's possible to go below pain consciously. And we can. When we were at the BC Cancer Agency, we had people with severe pain with brain tumors and stage 4 cancer and this kind of thing. And they would come down from the rooms, and we would do this deep guided visualization, putting them in very, very deep state. Well, morphine will give them, a few hours of relief from the pain. But they would come back to us each week, and they would say, like, after this meditation, they would get 6 hours of no pain. Now, this is the other part of the benefits of neuroscience today, is they can measure how long pain stays in the body. And they did an experiment, and this is on the Joy film. There's a neuroscience there, and he measures a person that's been meditating for 30 years and a person that's never meditated before, and their experience of pain. And so the person who's meditated, the minute he feels the pain goes up into the brain. They can see it in the MRI. But as soon as the pain is finished, his body goes back to what we term a default state. His default state is not worry, anxiety, or that it might return. The person who'd never meditated before, he never resumed the default state of relaxation. He stayed in that anxiety of when's it going to come back? When's it going to return? So think of it with acute pain. If we can meditate and reduce our pain in the moment, we have an opportunity to really work with whatever health concern we're facing, or whatever injury or accident we're facing. I use this with my moms in the hypnobirthing program. I teach them over 5 months meditation. I teach them how to self-induce hypnosis. So if you think about it, when we're giving birth, as a mother that's in the moment of labor, her number one response is going to be protecting her space to birth in. Okay, so now she's in this place where she's going to birth, and she's got people coming in and telling her how scary it is, how painful it's going to be. And what is she doing? She's hearing those suggestions and going into a fight, flight, or freeze response. What does that do? Triggers catecholamine, norepinephrine, flows through the system, sends all the blood out to the big muscles of the body, the legs and the arms. We want to fight or run away. And now, where the blood is needed most, in the abdomen, to help her relax and have the muscles of the body be able to relax and open, they're being starved of that necessary surge of blood that's needed during labor. I'll just share this one. I had one mom. She came to me. She was a doctor. Her husband was a doctor. Her dad was a pediatrician, and her mother was a psychotherapist. She announced to the whole family, I'm having a hypno birth, and it's going to be a water birth at home. They went nuts.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. And the family was out of their mind. You know, this is like the grandchild coming in, and this is their favorite daughter, and the dad's a pediatrician, and he's like, oh, you know, the damage that can happen to an infant during birth, all this kind of stuff. So anyway, the mom went ahead and we went and we did this. So I showed up at the house to assist during the birth, just for helping to keep her in. She was doing great in the water, you know, and then mom shows up. And the mom comes in the front door and goes right over to her, stands at the other side of the water, the pool she was in, and takes her daughter's hand and goes, oh my God, why are you doing this? You know, what an anchor, right? Back and forth. And so now my mom had some trouble going, I have to get back in, you know, so she could navigate the surges that were coming. Next in comes her father, walking around with the lecture about the damages that can happen to infant during birth. Oh, it was tough. And her husband, he was kind of like a little bit out of his mind. He was wandering around with food, and he was trying to get her to eat, you know, oranges and things that would cause the stomach to have lots of acid and want to throw up, sort of thing. Anyway, she ended up having this baby, and she got all the way through it, and she had the baby in water and birth. And we sent the parents away. We said, come back when we'll call you, and, you know, so she could focus and do what she was doing.
Right.
So this is acute pain, managing acute pain. I think most women who've had a baby, most husbands who've watched their wife birth, there's nothing, I mean, you just keep watching it. But what ends up happening is it's acute pain for a short amount of time, and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. Labor surges are not like normal pain. If I slam my hand in the car door and open it, my hand's going to swell and the pain's going to get worse until I get something to help it. But labor isn't like that. It starts off with little surges of pain for a few moments, and then gradually that starts to, you know, build. But it only lasts for about a minute. Well, we can pretty much do anything for a minute, except when we get to the very end and the labor is 1 minute of deep surges going on, and you only get 1 minute break. So I coach my moms. There's your 1 minute. In this minute between, you want to be doing your deep breathing. Now, some of the things that happen at that late stage labor is the moment the mom starts doing her deep breathing, it'll bring another surge on. So the surges start being on top of each other. But that's the birth is happening. We are right on the precipice of this going on. So a mother in labor actually has more control over what's going on in the birth. And it's only the model that's around us that doesn't really understand what she's doing. I had this one mom, met her at the hospital. She phoned at 5:30, met her at the hospital. Get in there. There's nobody on staff, just a midwife. And they said, oh, she was an older mom. She was 40, having her first baby. Oh, she'll be here till tomorrow. Don't worry about it. So my mom and dad, I walk into the room, and there they are. They're both practicing their breathing, calm and peaceful. And the nurse comes in, and she's chatting away, talking and everything. The lights are dimmed. My mom's breathing, and she's breathing quite strongly. And she says to me, she looks at me, and I'm listening to the nurse tell me that she's not going to birth till the next day either.
She's in labor already.
Yeah. And I looked at my mom, and she said, Kathy, she's whispering, I think the head's there. And I'm like, okay, is it okay if I look? And sure enough, she was crowning. So I said to the nurse, as quietly as I could, we'll need the midwife because the head is crowning. It was like the nurse threw something overhead, running around screaming out to the desk to find the midwife. The midwife just got in time, and the baby was coming. I mean, it was the most magical birth. And my mom was amazing through the whole thing, and so was her husband. So we have acute pain to manage, and then we also have the phantom pain that we're looking at. What about chronic?
Right.
Chronic pain responds beautifully because if you think about it, we're able to go below the pain sensory with meditation. If you're medicating for any of these things, it's difficult to get deep enough that you'll go below the main sensory system in the brain that registers pain. The number one thing I think we can all develop is that default state. What is your default state? When you are not in any other kind of situation at all, what is your default state? Where do you go? Is it worry? Am I starting to run through my laundry list? Oh, I'm worried about my mother. Oh, I'm worried about my husband. I'm worried about her health or his health. Oh, someone's got to pick the children up today. Where is our default state sitting?
Mm-hmm.
I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late for my meeting. Worry, worry, anxious, anxious. By the time you get to the meeting, like you're a basket case. What is your default state? That's what you want to work on. The default state. How do we work on that? This is how. Just before I jump into that one, I'm going to come back to it with a little exercise for everyone here. And I'm hoping you're watching our time for me.
Yes, we have about 7 minutes.
Oh dear, we better jump over there right now.
Okay.
Okay, what I'm going to get everybody to do, yourself included, enjoy this, because we're busy.
Absolutely.
We're
Yep.
busy. So what I'm going to have everybody in this little workshop do is just take a deep breath in. Now you've been following my voice and listening to me for quite some time here about all this information. I want you to just take a deep breath in and settle on that surface beneath you. Just feel where you're being supported. Feel where your feet are. And if it's okay for you, just put your hands on your lap instead of holding something. Put your stuff down, pen, notebook, all of it. Now I want you to take another deep breath in. And this time I want you to pay attention to the coolness around the nostrils. The air coming into your body is cool. Breathing in and now breathing out. Let's notice the cool indrawn breath one more time. Follow it as far as you can, and now let's release it. And on the exhale, notice it's warm and neutral. It's been neutralized by being in your body. Let's do that again, and this time let's go nice and slow. Slow indrawn breath through the nostrils. Slow exhale through the nostrils. Breathing in now. And breathing out. Good. This time, let's follow the cool indrawn breath. And I'd like you to take it all the way down into the belly. We're going to use our diaphragm. And even though we're always coached to hold a six-pack and keep that gut tucked in, what I want you to do is push the belly out with your breath. It's a different breath, isn't it? Even sitting in an upright position, nice and tall, use your belly to suck that cool air in. Our belly becomes like the bellows. It's pulling the breath in for us. This is a longer, slower breath. And slow, 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 letting that exhale release. One more deep indrawn breath now. And slow release. Now allow your breathing to become soft and kind of normal. I want you to notice you're still breathing into the belly. You've changed from the system of the body that is on alert, and you've changed yourself over into the system that's on renewal. Just breathing into my belly, just paying attention to the cold indrawn breath. Yes, you've changed from heightened awareness to calm and relaxed. There it is. And you've done it. You've achieved it. Pay attention to the cool indrawn breath. Slow inhale. Follow the exhale. Slow exhale. And now I'd like you to pay attention to the breathing as you begin to feel some little tingles releasing in the body. They may start up around the top of the head. You may feel them along the back of your neck. You may feel them in your shoulders, into your palms, around your knees, even down to the bottoms of your feet. Tingles, tingles. Feel it now and breathe. When you're ready now, opening your eyes and welcome back. Good.
Beautiful.
You've just changed the system. And as a meditation facilitator, that's what you learn in my program. And I want as many people as possible to learn how to do this for others. You're also doing it for yourself at the same time.
So tell me, the tingles, I always imagine that as energy, flowing
It
energy.
is, but it's also endorphin release, dopamine releasing. That's the tingles.
Yes.
You're causing them to release in your body and flood into every cell in your body.
Mm.
All right. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So we finished. And of course, anyone can find the material I've been talking about today at masteryofdeeptrancestates.com. That's masteryofdeeptrancestates.com. And the information will be up for you as well.
And Kathy has a free gift for us.
Yes, it's on my website. Exactly how to do this, the transcript of our workshop here today, and also an MP3 recording for you.
Relaxation response and your breath. So that will be included in a link on our website right here.
Correct. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there anything else, Kathy, or?
I also would just share with people that I do work one-on-one, and if people are having problems getting below the pain threshold, etc., I'm happy to work with them. I also have a neuroscience program that I actually teach as well, and I'll share some of that with you, Trish, for this program so that you can integrate a bit of it too. The neuroscience model behind all of this today is really helping all of us get a better understanding of just how our brain is really working. And it really is down to each of us. Mm-hmm. It's down to us. So let's carry on with our program, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Kathy Welter, for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm sure our listeners will be delighted to access your free gift, which we will have in the website. And listeners, please drop into the Facebook group. Share how you felt after this little exercise. I definitely felt the tingles. Did you? And how did you feel? And if you know of anyone who might be interested in this, you think it might benefit, please invite them to check out holisticpainreliefsummit.com. They can join up. Our interviews will be live for 30 hours. And they are welcome to catch up as fast as they can.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Okay.
Bye now.